So welcome everybody to the next installment of the OurCrowd Teaching Tuesday webinars. This is an educational series we do about 2 times a month, where we look at trends, industries, provide investor tips. It's an opportunity for us to kind of talk about the entire angel investing process. Tonight's really a special event. We're joined by a few very special guests. I'll talk about them in a second. First and foremost, we're going to be talking about the rapidly developing bike sharing market, which is obviously a subset of the sharing economy, multi-billion-dollar piece here. We're currently investing in social bicycles. We've had a lot of investor questions about how the market works, who makes the purchase decisions at the city level or at the corporate level. We have a couple customers on the line from Sobi to talk about that process, how they make decision, why they decided to go with social bicycles. We also have David S. Rose, who's an author. He's the founder of Gus, which is a well-known investment platform, and he's a well-known angel investor and the author of Angel Investing, the Gus Guide to Making Money and Having Fun Investing in Startups. We have fun. I know David has fun doing this. Thank you, David, for joining us. We'll introduce David in a second. David's also an investor in Social Bicycles. He was one of the earlier investors. And we wanted his opinion to see how he make the investment decision, sort of the investment case, and sort of how he sees the company going forward. Just a second for housekeeping. We do record these sessions that we'll be recording and available afterwards. We'll send out an email if you registered for this event. You will get an email with a link to a page where we'll embed the video. If you have any questions or follow-up questions from OurCrowd, or from Social Bicycles, we'll be more than happy to address them as well. So without further ado, let me introduce Ryan Rzepecki, who's the CEO and founder of Social Bicycles. Ryan?
Thanks for the intro, Zach, and thanks for setting up this call. I want to give a quick overview for the company for those that haven't been following us or are new to us. We are a bike share technology company. Bike share as an industry has been growing very, very quickly. In 2007, there was just 15,000 bikes and 25 systems globally. Then they introduced the Paris system de Libre in 2007, and with 20,000 bikes across the city, it instantly transformed that city into a great place to bike and provided all these new connections to public transit. And so after this success of that program, you see this huge growth in the industry. Bike share is now at over 700,000 bikes globally, 700 systems. Every major city in the U.S. either has bike share or will have bike share. Every major city around the world either has bike share or is on the path to having bike share. So London, New York, D.C., San Francisco, bike share is booming. The model thus far has been primarily of large docking stations and a central automated kiosk. You take a bike from one docking point, you ride it around, you drop it off at another docking point. What we've done differently is put all the technology onto the bike itself. So each bike has an integrated lock with a mobile connection and GPS tracking, and users can find and book these bikes through the website, through the mobile app, or by using the interface on the back of the bike. So we make the bicycles, we make the electronics, locking system that goes onto the bikes. We do the racks where you park the bike. We do even a walk-up kiosk where that's warranted. And most importantly, we do the software that ties all these pieces together. So that's a fleet administration software and user software, web and mobile apps for finding and booking the bikes. The business model is primarily as a technology platform, so independent operators can buy the bikes for $12.50 per bike, plus they pay $20 per bike per month in hosted services and software fees, so recurring fees for maintaining the system. In terms of the team, we have a very diverse team to put this all together. I have an urban planning background and previously worked for the New York City Department of Transportation in the bike planning group. We have industrial designers, electronics engineers, and a large software development team based out of Krakow, Poland. And we've got some great investors. You're going to hear from David today. Was actually the first outside check into the company. Has been an enthusiastic angel and supporter, and is the chairman of the board. And we also have Sean O'Sullivan, who is the founder of Karma, which is a ride-sharing app, and SOS Ventures, which is his fund. So somebody that gets the transportation space quite a bit and actively invests in transportation. And I guess real quick, before we transition over to my clients, we have 2014 projects launches, projects getting off the ground. Phoenix and Tampa are our two largest projects that have got on the ground this year. And those are both programs managed by CycleHop, which we are together working on 8 projects together. The Phoenix and Tampa project this year, and as well as Bishop Ranch and Office Park in San Ramon. And we have a bunch of projects queued up for next year. So with that, I would segue over to Josh, and if he wants to talk a little bit about his background in the industry. He's been somebody that's been in bike rental and bike sharing for longer than just about everybody, and what he thinks is unique about our approach, and how our approach is changing the market. Josh?
Ryan, this is Zack Miller from OurCrowd. I thought we were going to go over to David first and hear the investor perspective before we go over to Josh.
Oh, so okay, yeah. Sorry, my bad. Yes,
No worries.
David. Before we single over to Josh. Why don't we talk about what we've done to be an investor?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is David S. Rose. I am the chairman of the board of SoBi, and I am the founder and chairman emeritus of New York Angels, which is one of the largest and most active angel investment groups in the country, in the U.S., and actually in the world. I'm also a very active individual angel investor myself, with over 100 companies in my portfolio, as well as the founder and CEO of GUST, G-U-S-T, which is the world's largest community and platform for early stage financing. So with that background, and then finally, as Zack and Ryan noted, I'm the author of the sort of standard textbook on angel investing called Angel Investing, the GUST Guide to Making Money and Having Fun Investing in Startups. The reason I mentioned that particularly is that the book was actually written shortly after my original investment in Social Bicylces. And for those of you who happen to have a copy of the book handy, I devote pages 28 and 29 in the book specifically to the investment thesis and the investment history of how I found Ryan and why I invested in Social Bicylces. So to briefly sum up, what is it that angel investors look for or should look for? I have often written, and most angel investors, professional investors will tell you that the entrepreneur is the single most important thing about an investment. We call it betting the jockey, not the horse. So in Ryan, we saw somebody who was, while young and a first-time entrepreneur, he had that indefinable something, that je ne sais quoi, that said, this is an entrepreneur who will be able to pull this off and do it well. And it's now been a couple of years since we've done that, and it has absolutely proven itself correct. And then the underlying thing beneath that is the question of, is this a market and a business model that makes sense? And clearly, as you saw from the graph that Ryan just showed, this is beyond the market that makes sense. Going from effectively zero in terms of bike sharing to a global phenomenon that is metastasizing, that is exploding in every major city in the world. The market is exploding, and so then the question is, all right, you got the great entrepreneur, you've got a market that's big and growing. Does the investment thesis, does the business model, what the company is doing, make sense? And that's where, even before I got the other two things in place, I looked at the business model and said, this is an amazing business model, because right now we are in a world where the sharing economy, as we've all seen, is exploding as a new shared consumption model, not only for all kinds of good save the earth reasons, but for very economic and pragmatic reasons, where if you have things that are shared among a large group of people, it's much more efficient than devoting resources just to one person. And in the case of bicycle sharing, you take something and you multiply its effect many times over by having in a shared economy. And so then you look at the history of bike sharing, which Ryan went through really quickly in his slides. The very first thing, the white bikes in Amsterdam that you saw, back in the 1960s, bike sharing meant taking a bicycle, locking it up, saying, hey, here's a bike, and you want a bike, here's a key, and you can unlock the bike and then lock it up again. When you move to the second generation efficient bike sharing systems, such as in Paris and most of the ones that had launched prior to Sobi, you had smart bikes. And so here you had bikes that plugged into these smart hubs in New York City and Paris and so on, and you would dock the bike into a hub, you would use your credit card or other device to unlock it, ride it, and then ride it to another hub and put it back in. And so that meant you can now have automatic payment, you could track the bikes from hub to hub, and so on and so forth. What Social Bicycles has done is to take it to the next generation, and the third generation is where the world is heading in everything now, and that's putting the smarts on the bicycle itself instead of in the hub. And I can't overstate how important this actually is, because whereas in the second generation you basically have technology managing an infrastructure system of these hubs, with the third generation, which is Social Bicycles, you have this amazing thing where now the bikes themselves, because they have the intelligence and the wireless and the power, everything integrated lock, become part of the cloud. So now the cloud is directly managing the individual pieces, the individual bikes out there, and that means you can now begin to treat bicycles, physical bicycles in a particular location, the way you would other kinds of digital things. You could change pricing on the fly. You could change incentives on the fly. You can track and see. You can tie it into your heart rate monitor and figure out where you're biking and how fast you're biking based on GPS. You can do all kinds of amazing things and leverage all of the advances that are happening in technology now in a physical real-world system. So that was the investment thesis here of the growing industry, the amazing entrepreneur, and a business model that was a breakthrough and heading in the direction that the world is heading in terms of a shared cloud-controlled economy were all perfect. And then the one last point I would make is that as an investment and as a company, this has really been a complete pleasure since the minute I invested, and you can read the whole funny story about how I found Ryan in the first place in the book. But the co-lead on this, I led the seed round. The seed plus round was done by SOS Ventures. That's Sean O'Sullivan. It's an Irish-American fund that is a leader in bikes and other areas, transportation and other areas. Very, very bright guys. They run a whole bunch of accelerator programs, and their partner, who serves on the board of Sobi with me, is Brad Higgins, who is one of the smartest investors that I've ever seen. And together, Brad and I provide a little bit of the gray hair and experience that the company, when added into the vision and energy and execution skills of Ryan and the team, really make for a very impressive company. So it's been just literally a joy and a delight to be involved with Sobi since the beginning. The initial investment thesis has paid off. If you see the explosion in terms of contracts they're getting, they now clearly are the industry, not only vision and thought leader, but in terms of actually winning contracts, this is the play. And we're delighted to welcome the folks from OurCrowd into it. So I'll now turn it back to Ryan or Zach.
Cool. Thanks, David. Yeah, and sorry about the early transition over to Josh, but Josh, if you're there, I'd love you to fill in everybody about your background in the industry and how we partner together, and the projects we work on together, and how our approach is changing the industry.
Sure. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Zach and Dave, for inviting me for this call. So a little bit about my background. Been in the bicycle rental and tours industry for about 22 years, pretty much right out of college. And it's been great to see over this time how this industry has grown, initially internationally, and then now in the U.S. and Asia and South America. And it's definitely an explosion in the marketplace. We see cities, mayors that are hungry for bike share, and we see demand from millennials who don't want to own cars, and seeing a drop in driver's license by 25%, driver license applications. And they're basically saying that we want to live in cities and we want to get around on bicycles and public transit. And I transitioned into bike share from the traditional bicycle rental business that I was in. It started in 1998, actually, when I was just looking for automating bike rental. And I had actually the first patent for bike share in the United States. And at one point, it was a little bit early in my time, and at one point I partnered with JCDecaux, which Ryan showed earlier in the slides. They are the company that implemented bike share in Paris, and prior to that in Lyon. And they're also the largest out-of-home media company in the world. And so I worked with them for 3 years and participated in those projects. And then they decided to stay out of the U.S. market, and I'll explain why. But since that happened, I ended up joining Bicycle, which is one of the largest bike share companies in the U.S. It's owned by Trek, and it's a Sobi competitor. So I helped them develop their product, was one of the first companies to purchase their product and test it and debug it for them, and help them win many, many contracts in different cities, and then manage some of their cities. At one point, I ran into Ryan, and Ryan, we first met in New York City when we were bidding with Bicycle on that market, and Ryan he had a concept at the time, I guess. It wasn't really a product, but he was so good at selling that concept that he made it to the table, and Bicycle actually saw value in his product and in his vision. And immediately from the moment I met this guy and his idea, I'm like, wow, this is the future, and I need to work with this guy. And it took some time till we hooked up again, and it happened in Tampa when that bid came out, and Ryan called me and asked me if I want to bid on this with him. And the reason why he needed somebody with operational experience in order to qualify for that bid. And so we bid on it. It was sort of a last moment thing, and we actually won that bid. And then from there, it's been like history. We've just been working together very closely, and I enjoy working with Ryan and his team. And everything that David said about him is correct, but he's not perfect. So, if anything, I could tell you about him that yes, he made some mistakes along the way, but we all do. But he has a lot more successes than the mistakes that he made. And we've been having a little push and pull over the relationship to sort of define our roles, which is again is very normal in a business that is a startup, and so we've both been very flexible to sort of pave that road together, and I think today we have a very clear understanding of what everybody's role is and how we contribute. And I see Sobi as an amazing technology company that is just starting. It's in its diapers, really. Just today I had a conversation with Ryan about how we should get into electric car share in Phoenix, and we can make that happen. And it fits with the mode of what Sobi's product is. It's not only a bike share application, but it's integrated philosophy of transit. So basically, your app is giving you access to the Sobi app could give you access to bike share, but maybe it could also give you access to car share down the road. So I see Sobi as, yes, right now they're a bike share vendor for us, and they have a great product. But I also see them as a long-term partner in growing these markets into other products, and that's where I'm really excited about working with Ryan and Sobi. Why am I working with Ryan beyond the fact that he's a good guy and he has an amazing team? I think it comes down to the technology and basically the pricing associated with that. And what he's done, he's pretty much taken the existing market and turned it on its head by delivering a cheaper product that is actually better. And that's a typical disruption in an industry. And where others failed, he succeeded. And like I say, for example, Call Bike in Germany had a concept back then where you dial in a phone number. Well, the technology wasn't there for apps back then, And we've seen the app work amazingly, and the data that's coming out of it. And I have concern, being a little bit older than Ryan, and I'm not a millennial, and I have concerns, are people going to really use the app instead of a kiosk and to access the bike? And the answer was unequivocally yes, 100%. People are using it like crazy, and the kiosk is pretty much an obsolete thing. So his stations are lighter, they're easier to install, they cost less, which means we could put more of them out there, which means I could get more customers, and which means the customers could ride and drop off the bike where they want to go and not look for a station. And if there's a full dock, that's not a problem, because they could just park it at a public bike rack. And when they do that, we earn extra money because there's a fee associated with that. So all around, we're giving more flexibility for the customer, and pricing models have also. We've been experimenting with pricing models that the industry has never looked into before. And so we're doing some really cutting-edge things with bike share and leading the way. And I think that these municipalities are recognizing it, and that's why they want to contract with us. They want to buy tomorrow's technology, not yesterday's technology. And what Ryan has, he does have tomorrow's technology. And I always wonder, though, when are the other companies going to catch on and start developing his technology? But that's why we like the fact that he's focused on developing technology, because by the time that happens, he's already developed the next best thing, and he's always going to be 3, 4, 5 years ahead of them. And already this SoBi nation is building up and creating this network. So the light stations is one thing. The fact that the consumer has more capabilities, they could reserve the bike, ride where they want to go, is another thing. The cost of the equipment is cheaper than other equipment. What does that mean for me? It means that I could do more implementations with less money, and actually grow my company and gain more customers, because I don't have to invest too much money in capital, and I could start rolling out quickly as well. And the final thing is the transit integration, which I'm really excited about. And Ryan, having a background in transit, working for New York DOT in the past, he understands that really, really well. And I think it's part of the core of their company, and having that understanding, I know that he's going to pump out future products that could help grow my company. And so what we are, in essence, CycleHop is sort of a firewall for SoBi in many ways, because we contract with the cities, and they're our vendor. So we provide some risk management for them. For CycleHop, the cities like to interact with operators who specialize in customer service and maintenance, and we also sell out-of-home media. That's another area that we're focused on in sponsorship and advertising sales. Some of our cities are financed by the city, some we finance. And what I could say is that really, our companies complement each other, and there's room for both, and it's a win-win for us. And for both of our companies, and that's one of the main reasons that I'm working with Ryan and SoBi, because I do see a way for both of us to win and grow our companies.
Thanks, Josh. I really appreciate that, and it's been great. We have 8 projects together, and it's a good portion of our total projects. And we've learned a lot, I think, from each other as we've brought these projects to market. Josh is a for-profit owner-operator of bike share, has invested his own capital into bike share, and is doing it with the hope of selling enough memberships, having enough usage, and having enough sponsorship to be profitable. Dave, the other client on the call today from Boise, Idaho, it's a different type of customer for us. This is an interesting one. It's a transit agency out of Boise that spearheaded the project. Dave used to be full-time at the transit agency. I believe he's now full-time with Boise Bike Share. And this is an initiative that is very much integrated with their broader public transportation vision. And Dave, I'd like you to maybe talk a bit about how Boise Bike Share got going, and how it's been to develop that within the transit agency framework, and I guess a little bit about your decision-making process in selecting us, and hopes for next year.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Well, Boise Bike Share actually started as a public health initiative because I used to work for the local health department, and I had seen a presentation by Mia Burke out of Portland, Oregon, who eventually went on to form Alta Bike Share as part of her Alta planning. And she talked a little bit about bike share. It inspired me. I wrote a proposal to my director, and he gave me the permission to go ahead and explore it. And that was almost 4 years ago. So it's been a long road to get bike share to Boise. And after putting together an advisory committee, we eventually decided to put bike share under the transit agency because it just made sense. We had looked at the nonprofit model, and we didn't have the strength of field to do that. But with Valley Regional Transit, we did have a stable platform under which to form bike share. We got some support from the city of Boise itself, from Boise State University, and from our local development agency for the downtown area. And with that, they created the position that I've held for a little more than a year. My first order of business upon taking the job was to come up with a request for proposal, which we put out last fall. We got 4 good proposals, and I have to say one was from Josh. Thank you, Josh. And then we put together a panel of interested parties, experts, if you will, to review those proposals. Removed from the proposals were any consideration of price. We wanted to look at the technical specifications for each of the proposals. And then we scored each proposal, and Social Bicylces came out on top. Conducted separate of this by our purchasing department was a review of the price proposals. And it turned out that Social Bicylces came out on top with that as well. Basically what that meant is that we got the system that we wanted for the price that we wanted. And then we entered into a whole period of dealing with the complexity of federal funding, because the bikes and racks and attendance software are all being paid for with a Transportation Alternatives grant through the Federal Highway Administration. But when it came down to it, Social Bicylces presented the best product. We like the idea of the flexibility. It allows customers, when wanting to go where they want to go, not necessarily where there is a station to park the bike. We also like the fact that it had the integrated mobile phone app, because we see that as the future. Having said that, we had some members of our Boise City Council who felt differently. They have experienced bike share more in the traditional third-generation model, where you have the docks that the bikes must be returned to, and every station has a kiosk. And so the City Council voted to purchase more kiosks for us. We will start out with 14 stations and 10 kiosks and about 114 bikes. That's pretty much our story. We seem to be satisfied with what Social Bicylces has done with us so far. We will launch our system in April if all goes according to plan, and I certainly hope it does.
Thank you very much, Dave. And yeah, we're really excited to be launching this project. It's our second project in the state of Idaho, and I think you have a lot of great partners there with the university, with the transit agency on board, and Dave also secured a sponsorship. I don't think that's been publicly announced yet, but he has, he's worked to find a large sponsor to help make the program sustainable and cover some of the operations expenses. So it's been really great to work on a wide range of types of projects. The types of projects we work with Josh, the transit agency customers, the nonprofit customers. We really have a broad spectrum of clients that we're working with, and we learn a little bit different things from each client, and it's been a really great process. So I guess with that, Zach, I think we're all happy to do question and answers if any questions have come in. And please let us know, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thanks for everyone. That was a great presentation. Ryan, I know it's in the middle of the night. Ryan's traveling in Asia this week, and appreciate you dialing in the middle of the night. There are some questions that came through. We'll try to get to all of them. So I'm just trying to combine them here. First question, how does bike sharing work in an area where bike helmets are required by law? Are there any issues there?
So fortunately, it's actually very few places that have helmet laws for adults. The most prominent ones that come to mind are King County, Seattle, Vancouver in Canada, all of British Columbia actually, and then Australia. The entire country of Australia has a helmet law. There's been a bike share in Melbourne that has not been as successful as many thought it would be, and it's largely been the helmet law that was sort of blamed for that. Seattle was launched quite recently, and I think their usage has also been a bit lower. That said, there are some innovations coming down the pipeline. There's a company that we're talking to in California that has a recyclable cardboard helmet that can be sold for less than $10, and they're making vending machines to sell those. So I think that you'll see some of that coming online, and I think you'll also see some reforms to helmet laws and a removal of helmet laws in advance of bike share. They did that in Mexico City before they launched bike share there. They got rid of the helmet law that was on the books. I think down the road you'll start seeing that the trend is moving toward less laws about helmets rather than more. So there's definitely an impact, but I think it's a very small part of the business.
Ryan, another question for you. You sort of touched on it in your original PowerPoint. Somebody on the call wanted to know about, how smart the bicycle is. You talk about it, but can you give us specifics about the intelligence that's embedded in the bike?
Sure. So it's basically a computer on the back of the bike. It has an LCD screen for user interactions. It has front and rear lighting, also controlled by the electronics. It has a cellular connection, so it's got a cell module in the bike. It has RFID NFC capability, so cities that may have a transit card, like the Clipper card in San Francisco, you can actually just use that as your bike access. You can tap that and unlock your bike. The entire thing is powered via solar panel and hub dynamo, which means it's natural and off the grid energy that's powering the thing. And so yeah, it's putting a lot of the tech on the bike, which enables these great interactions. And beyond the tech on the bike, it's the back-end software in the cloud that enables all this as well. So all the user experience elements, we put as much of that as possible into the smartphone app, because that really kind of, a smart bike, it works way better when you have the cloud behind it.
Got it. Again, these were things you touched on in your first presentation with OurCrowd, but one participant on the webinar wants to know about the pricing model.
Sure. Is this for the end user?
Well, I guess discuss the at the city or corporate level and the end user. Both.
Sure. So our model is primarily is technology platform. So, we're selling the bikes to Josh and other operators, and then we charge this monthly fee for the software and the connectivity. That varies on the size of the project, but is typically around $20 or $25 per bike per month. So that at that point, after they bought the equipment, they're paying the recurring fees. They can keep whatever revenue that the system generates. In terms of the user pricing, I think this is a place where there's a lot of room for innovation. And as Josh mentioned, we're trying a lot of different things. The traditional bike share model was really an annual membership for between $50 and $100 per year. And that would give you an unlimited amount of 30 or 45-minute trips for free. So that was the traditional model. They'd also have a day pass that would be between $5 and $10, and that'll give you 24-hour access and then unlimited 30-minute trips. What we're trying to do differently is have simplified pricing plans. So one being an affordable monthly option, $15 to $20 a month, kind of around the same price point as a Netflix membership, and that'll give you an hour of free riding time each day. And we're also seeing a lot of uptake in our pay-per-use model or prepaid model, where a user just creates an account, puts $5 on the account, and then just pays as they go along. And so there's very little barrier to entry for that. And so even if you're not going to be a super regular user and you just want to have an account and maybe use it sporadically, that's a really good option for that type of customer. And we've had huge uptake of that in Phoenix and in Tampa, where that's been rolled out. We're the first in the industry to offer this type of casual or semi-frequent usage pricing, and it's been really, really successful. So we're trying to get a pricing model that's really based on usage and affordable monthly options rather than these bigger annual membership packages.
Great. And this question may be directed at the guests on the line. Does the typical municipality see this bike share as a profit center, break even, or ongoing cost? What is the actual experience versus projections that maybe you had before launching one of these projects? And maybe give some ongoing data.
Yeah, maybe we can have Dave take the first pass at that, and then maybe Josh can talk about his relationship with his cities or his client.
So this will not be a profit-making venture. We just have to cover our costs. What we are telling our partners in the community is that this is a public-private partnership. The assets themselves are owned by the public sector, paid for by the public sector in the form of the federal grant and the matching local grants. But that operations will be covered through membership and user fees and through sponsorships. And so that is what I have been concentrating on a great deal in the last few months. Since we haven't started operations yet, I can't tell you how successful this model is going to be. But I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it works because, well, my job depends on it.
Great answer.
Great. And Josh, do you want to talk about some of the different models you have? Phoenix is no cost to the city, but privately financed, though they do have some grant money coming down the pipeline. Santa Monica, they're actually paying for operations. So you want to talk a little bit about some of the cities that you've worked with and we've worked with together?
Sure. So, to give you a little macro view of this, I see bike share financing as a four-legged chair, basically. And there's different sources of revenue that each leg represents. One leg represents the user fees from the customer. And then the second leg represents potentially sponsorship and advertising from business owners and companies. And then you have another leg, which is grants from city and federal level. And the fourth leg is basically, what the operator and vendor put into it as well. And there's no really way yet of getting around those four legs. So if you remove one, you have to compensate with the other. And what we found is that each market is different. Like in New York City, the DMA rates is the #1 ad market in the world. So of course, Citibank is going to pay $70 million to sponsor there over, through 2020, I guess, 10-year period. And in other markets like Tampa and Florida, selling sponsorship and getting revenue from that is a little bit more challenging because it's a smaller market and it doesn't have as much visibility or high DMA ranking. So really, we have to look at each project differently. And in some, we have a diversified portfolio of clients. Some are hire for service, where the city actually pays us to operate, and they own the system. And that's the case in Santa Monica. And then in Phoenix, where for us to enter that market, we gave them 500 bikes, and now they're going to actually pitch in to help grow the system with approximately $2 million in grants from the neighboring cities and Phoenix, and a lot of that's going towards capital, but some might go towards ops as well. So there's really each city is a little bit different. We've been a little bit innovative, and I think we found a successful model with corporate clients in Bishop Ranch, where we share the risk between the customer and the operator. CycleHop, where when we sell more memberships, we make more money, but also the owner of the system is subsidizing a portion of it. So really, what it comes down to is to look at each customer in a new light and see what's the best way to work with that customer given their market size and how much they're willing to participate.
Okay, so a couple ancillary questions.
Does that answer the question, Ryan?
Yes, sorry.
Go ahead, Ryan. A couple ancillary questions came in.
No, sorry, Zach, do you have another question?
Yeah. Can you guys talk about, and it'd be interesting to hear the differing opinions on this, just describe the sales cycle of getting a new account. How long is it? What's the contracting and manufacturing inventory timelines of a typical sales cycle, if there's such thing as typical?
Sure, yeah, I could take that one. So, these relationships are something that get developed months or even years in advance. It takes a long time for, especially the city managed projects, before they're ready to release an RFP and then make their selection. So they'll often put out an RFI, or they'll meet with vendors in the industry, and that'll happen months or even up to a few years before they actually issue the RFP. So the typical sales cycle for a municipal project could be up to 2 years if that's including your relationship building before the RFP. And then you have corporate projects that could be a little bit faster, maybe 3 to 6 months if they have the financing in place and want to move quickly. So the smaller projects or private projects can move a lot quicker. From the time an RFP is released for a public project, usually have about 3 to 4 weeks to put in your response. Then they'll do some interviews that'll take 2 to 3 weeks. Then they'll make their selection. Then you'll have a contracting process of about a month, and then it takes about 6 months to produce and implement the project. So from the time you issue RFP to the time you deliver a project is 9 months to a year. It could actually be much more than that, depending on how long contracting and these other pieces moves. So it's definitely a rather long sales cycle, and one that does involve procurement, but it's something that we've as a company gotten quite good at. I have a background in this industry, and I go to a lot of the industry conferences, and having those relationships really helps. And knowing how, now that we've we've won a number of government projects and contracted them. Building that up, is something that gives us a bit of a barrier to entry as we're looking to grow for the next couple of years.
Great.
Ryan, I'd like to add to that. Basically, do we have time?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that a lot of times the funding sources dictate the sales cycle length. And basically, for example, if it's federally funded, typically there's certain steps that they have to go through the municipalities in order to access that money. And each region's a little bit different. And it could take anywhere from a year to 3 years. And then if it's, other times it's funded through other places, like if it's a nonprofit that's funding it, or if it's privately funded, or if it's funded by, like in LA right now, Metro, they're funding it through a taxation on the express lane. And those funds are controlled locally. When the funds are controlled locally, then they could issue the RFP faster, and they don't have to do all these many of the steps that the federal funding requires. So it really depends on the type of, and when it comes to a private commercial property, then that happens really fast because they're funding it, and then it really depends on how fast Ryan could deliver his product to them.
Very cool. We have time for a couple more questions. A couple attendees asked a question about security on the bike. Ryan, can you address what you're doing to lock down the bike?
Sure. So the bike has a very thick steel U-bar that can lock to regular bike racks. So it's very thick, very durable. Additionally, the bike has GPS tracking, so that's both a psychological deterrent and can help recover a bike in the event that there was a theft. Probably the biggest deterrent in bike share for theft is actually just having a distinct bicycle. Most bike thieves, professional bike thieves, are looking to go ahead and resell that bike, and you can't exactly take a bike share bike, which is a completely custom bike, and go down to the local bike shop and try to sell it. So theft rates have been extremely low in the U.S., 3 to 5% or even less, just a few percent. And we, Social Bicylces and our client sites, we haven't lost a single bike that's been deployed yet. And so we hope that continues. But the theft has not been a huge issue in this industry, and has not been an issue for us. We have very good security systems in place.
Any consideration to adding electric bikes to the fleet?
Absolutely, it's on the roadmap. There's some challenges with that with regards to recharging the batteries, and so there's a couple of different approaches that can be taken there. It's something we're interested in, but it's probably at least a year to 2 years out before we'd have something.
And a question about market size. How do you think about market size? Obviously, you're addressing municipalities, but the whole corporate or enterprise market is totally like kind of greenfield opportunity. Can you give us, attendees a feeling for how you think about that?
Sure. I mean, I think that every major pocket of density is going to have some sort of bike share. So, most major cities, just as they have buses or taxis or subways, bike share is going to become a must-have for any functioning urban place. Then within that, either as separate systems or in smaller towns, maybe as the main node, you have the corporate campus market and the university market, which are themselves kind of a newer market brought on by our technology, because we're bringing that cost down and making it accessible to those markets. So, I think about it in the broadest terms that bike share is going to be part of the transportation fabric of cities going forward, and every major city is going to have some sort of bike sharing.
We have time for one more question. This is an interesting one. You have a bunch of investors on the call. How do you think investors make money in this? What's the exit strategy, longer term? How are you thinking about staging growth in your company, Ryan?
Sure. Josh hinted at this, and I talked about it in the first webinar. I didn't go too deeply into it today because this was focused on the bike share industry and on our clients within it. But as Josh said, we see ourselves as a transportation technology company, and we see ourselves as being able to bridge out and build other types of transportation tech. We have a client already that's a car share company. We have 3 clients that are transit agencies. We have Josh, who's now interested in doing car share in the markets where he's already operating. And it's just a logical extension that, from all these transportation conferences I go to, it's that there's going to be integrated mobility. You're going to have one account and be able to access all these different services. So the extent that we can show that our bike share tech is the one that integrates best with these other modes, to the extent that we can eventually start building out some of those other modes, that really opens up the number of potential buyers. And you have many, many large companies putting billions of dollars into the transportation industry. You have Daimler, who's a car company, but they're talking now about being really transportation companies. So they bought an app called Ride Scout, which shows all your transit options nearby. They do Car2Go, which is point-to-point one-way car share. And, they're getting into the e-hail and taxi dispatch space as well. And then you have somebody like Google that bought Waze. They do Google Transit. They do their investment in Uber through Google Ventures. So you have many, many big companies looking to make a seamless transportation experience locally. And so the extent that we can build the bike share piece to that, that's what gives us bigger upside. So whether we build this bigger vision or we're part of an acquisition, regardless, this is going to happen. Bike share, car share, taxis, and transit are coming together. And so that's the landscape that we see, and we see ourselves as being part of local transportation, not really being part of the bike industry per se.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. Ryan Rzepecki, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, and I'd like to say thanks to Dave, and Josh. It was really great to have their insights and have an outside voice, a few outside voices on the call. So thanks for setting this up, and thanks to everybody that participated.
Thanks for joining us as well, David, Dave, and Josh. Appreciate your participation. This was very educational. If you are interested in learning more about the investment case and the opportunity here, and you're an investor, you can log into your account at OurCrowd.com. There's information there about SoBi, a presentation similar to one that you saw tonight, but more in depth. There's a recording of our original webinar that we did with Ryan. There's a lot of information there as well. So if you are interested in learning more, definitely go back to the website, OurCrowd.com, sign in or sign up, and click on SoBi and get more information there. With that, I'm Zack Miller here at OurCrowd. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us from around the world tonight.